So uh, I'll begin with what Pallav just talked about, that the idea of Nagrikal conversation and the Talk in the Town platform is to uh, think of various pioneering approaches at the level of the cities, where cities have been trying to get a connect between people and policies. And since we're talking about New Town, I just wanted to lead with a brief about from you about New Town, what kind of place it is, and what kind of mobility does it have right now.
Okay. So we had this video conference recently. We means we in Newtown, Kolkata. Newtown, Kolkata is on the periphery of Kolkata. Like La Defense is for Paris and many other, let us say Gurgaon is for Delhi and Noida is for Delhi. So Newtown is for Kolkata. Old cities cannot expand. So there is the peripheralization of the urban economy. So it is in urban areas that new IT-driven and new growth and new energy is happening. So that is being harnessed in a planned manner in Newtown. Now, only last week in Newtown, we had a video conference with Milton Keynes in UK. Milton Keynes is also a relatively new town in UK, that is England, and it is located between London and Oxford or Cambridge. A similar phenomenon happened over there too, because real estate prices in London is very high, and therefore new enterprises could not go up. Like they say in Silicon Valley in California, the garage that the Google founders worked on would be costing so much that nobody in the startup ecosystem can afford this. So what is happening is that what we tried to twin with that city, and we tried to find out what were the areas of common interest. And one of the things we found that they have created a center of excellence on zero emission vehicles. There is so much myth, so much of the unknown with the electric vehicles, so many models coming out every day, each costing more than the other or less than the other. And so what does it feel like? How does the model, each model compare with another? What are the innumerable questions? What if I run out of charge in between? Does it have speed? The innumerable questions which you cannot ask your neighbor as you do for buying a conventional vehicle. So that is sought to be addressed through a center of excellence on electric vehicles. So we plan to build a center of excellence on electric vehicles, but before that, on the 24th of this month, that is the last Friday of this month, on the weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, we are going to have an electric vehicle carnival, where all auto manufacturers, two-wheeler e-scooter manufacturers, think of Ola scooter, battery manufacturers, assemblers, think of lithium, think of autonomous or semi-autonomous electric vehicles, think of great minds who are from the auto industry, the battery chargers. We are trying to bring in all stakeholders together in this 3-day carnival and try to create ambience, a kind of mentality for urging people, nudging people into getting into zero emission vehicles, because that is where the future lies. And I like to believe that 5 years ago, we had held what we called then an e-rickshaw mela. E-rickshaw mela, a 3-day affair which the minister flagged off, and we brought in all manufacturers of e-rickshaws, battery-powered 3-wheelers, and so many people came and so much interaction happened that today Newtown, Kolkata is having one of the largest population of battery-powered 3-wheelers. And we have put charging stations all around, very simple 15 ampere normal 230 volt supply from the street lamps, and people are getting very benefited with charging for the next trip to come by. And a similar kickoff thing we are trying to make this place. And we, in short, trying to say that the future urban mobility must be eco-friendly, climate-friendly, and EVs or zero-emission vehicles, as is the fashionable term now, is a great way forward. We are, on the other hand, also, you see, we think that electric vehicle or zero-emission vehicles can be pushed into the system from two sides, from the upper end and from the lower end. The lower end, which I briefly touched upon, is about the three-wheelers, the totos. In common language in Bengal, we call it auto, is by CNG or petrol or diesel, and totos are battery run. So totos, is there a better way to make it more efficient, make it more friendly, make the batteries more accurate, and make a charging ecosystem from them only? And this is an approach that is being taken by some of the auto companies as well, like Mahindra's, that they said that they are trying to attack the issue from the bottom level, how to convert bottom level scooters, motorcycles, three-wheeler autos, tempos and other things, switch over to the zero emission mode. And one, of course, is at the top end, where the Tesla, the two models have recently been decided that they will put up in India. So a very high model, and they want to get into this winged motor vehicles for the fancy, for the people who can afford it. And of course, from the middle rank, also the middle class Indians who can buy it. So, but basically the approach is to look both at the lower end of the personal segment and the higher end of the public segment, and of course, the public transportation. It is in Newtown, Kolkata, that we have been running for the last 4 years. For the last 4 years, 3 electric vehicles, air-conditioned, I was very insistent, air-conditioned electric vehicles. More than 3 lakh people have actually been served by these 3 vehicles in these 4 years. I can say that with conviction, because we have made every ticket only price 10 rupees. Not that we care for 10 rupees or we recover our costs, but so that we can account for the number of people who are using the electric buses. More recently, the government of West Bengal in the transport department has decided to introduce electric buses in more numbers, 50 electric buses. The charging stations and the servicing stations are all ready. And we hope that within this calendar year, these 50 buses will be flagged off in Newtown, in addition to the 3 being run by us from the city, by the HIDCO authorities. Now, therefore, we are also looking at another area of urban transportation, that is point to point, 500 meters to 2 kilometers. 500 meters, we say, is just beyond the capacity to walk. People don't feel very comfortable in the sun to walk more than 500 meters. And so the distance between 500 meters to, let us say, 3-4 kilometers, we intend to fill up by cycles. So what we are doing is that for the only public bicycle shared scheme, where apps-driven cycle, there are 25 docking stations. You choose any cycle with gear, very nice. I've used it myself. And you use your app and you pay whatever is the fee, 5 rupees for 30 minutes or whatever, for the time you use till you dock it again on another of the 25 docks. This has also been proved very, very popular, especially with the young crowd. And even for the women, what we are doing is that we have started every Sunday at 4 o'clock at the NKD football ground and on the outside road, periphery road around the football stadium. There is training for cycling. So there are cycles, there are first aid boxes. You're sure to fall and get a scratch. So there is a bandage nearby. And there are trainers completely free of cost. And we are doing this. We are doing this to encourage people to cycle. And I'm happy to say that Newtown, Kolkata has been picked up as one of the top 10 cities of India, where we are actively making segregated cycle tracks, colored cycle tracks, dedicated cycle corridors, cycle repairs. You make a telephone call. These days, fancy cycles are very costly and complicated. The roadside mechanic cannot, like the Scorpios and others, and it's difficult to maintain. And therefore, there's a mobile repair clinic that we have done in a private partnership. And you make a call, pay 50 rupees, and it will be there with you to repair your cycle. We also have 400 e-cycles. E-cycles are battery powered, but these are not scooters. They have a pedal also. In case you run out of the battery and you are stuck somewhere, no worry, you pedal it away for the rest of the place. So that is also proving to be pretty successful. So we are saying that in the urban mobility scheme, we are emphasizing heavily on zero emission vehicles and trying to grow an ecosystem, trying to raise consciousness, trying to change the building rules of the city. We have made car parking for electric vehicles, 2-3 car parkings you have to make and reserve for electric vehicles to encourage people, and there will be a charging station nearby. So while you are shopping or seeing the movie, you can get your car charged up or at least topped up to an extent. So this is a strategy we are taking: bicycles, commercial vehicles like buses, electric driven, and trying to nudge people to wean away from gas spewing things. And the whole motivation for this is not really that we are unduly worried about, sorry to disappoint some environmentalists, of the future of planet Earth in the distant future, because we believe, like the rest of India, that the industrialist countries emit much larger share of carbon gases, so they should take the lead. But I'm not getting into that. We care for zero emission vehicles because when we were doing this smart city study 4 years ago, we tried to ascertain from the citizens, the residents of the city, as to what their major concerns were. And one of the major concerns that was flagged among the top 3 was the quality of air. They were not happy with the dust particles, with the smoke, with the NOx and SOx and everything else that comes up from the automobile. And this is actually the driving force. We don't want people to suffer. We don't want people to be difficult to breathe. And we have lots of senior citizens as well as very tiny children who need to get pure air. And the cause of air pollution to a major extent depends on air automobile pollution. And it is that is urging us to go more and more for cycles, electric vehicles, electric buses, and metro rail and LRT. We have even toyed up with the idea of having one section that is not covered by metro railway in about 7.5 kilometers through monorail or LRT, that is elevated fast trams or something like that. But still, it has not seen the light of the day. Financial closure has not been possible as of now, but we are working on it. So this, in a nutshell, what we are doing, but I must not also leave out the phenomenon of smart bus stands and smart bicycle stands. We are making bus stands in a multi-purpose bus stands. You have to see to understand the beautiful designing, and a kiosk that sells chai and snacks. And that person is earning a living and keeping an eye on the other parts of the bus stand, which has got a water, drinking water supply and a mobile charger unit and many other things, and even a newspaper vendor, a newspaper kiosk in some cases. And for the smart cycle stands, where people from the nearby villages come, park their cycles and go off to work to the main Kolkata city, we have also put up smart cycle stands, which is proving to be very, very popular. And we intend to build more such in the future. Lastly, I will close my monologue kind of a thing by saying that in the neighboring township, and we intend to do that in Newtown as well sometime in the future, we have engaged a consultant, a very expert consultant, to look at the entire traffic dispersal system once the metro railway starts operating. I must mention that both in Sector 5, Navodiganto, which is adjoining Newtown, Kolkata, and the metro railway is being built. It is not yet operational. Metro, RVNL and metro authorities say it might be operational in 3-4 years' time. But when these 3-4 years go by, one metro stops and the entire dispersal, suddenly thousands of people disembarking from one point and going to other places. We don't want a traffic jam to first be created and then scratch our heads as to which to make one way, how many flyovers, how many parking spaces, etc. So we have engaged a consultant agency who will do traffic survey and try to understand the impact of the metro railways on the local dispersal from the metro railway station to the neighboring offices, houses, and other places. That also we have tried, and we are doing it in a very systematic way.
Thanks, Mr. Sen. I think you gave a very comprehensive answer to what I had asked about the mobility in the city, and not just the mobility in the city, but you laid out a very clear, emphatic vision for mobility in the next coming years, including your vision for a zero emission free Newtown. And I think what resonated a lot, which is also in line with what we're trying to get at, the connect between people and policies, is that a lot of it has been built on the aspirations articulated, manifested through the smart city proposal. And I think that is something that is often missing, where the planning stage is often diverse from the implementation stage, and you try to carry it through and through, starting from what the aspirations of people who were there at that time, and now converting that vision into actual actions through these multiple projects. So my next question is actually about another such initiative that you have recently taken, and which seems to be a stepping stone towards creating a transportation plan, a green sustainable transportation plan for Newtown, where you had created a task force, and where you invited people from various walks of life, and including people from ITCO, including people from civil society organizations. So my question in three simple terms is the what, why, and how of this task force or such initiatives. That what is this task force, where there are people who are represented and who are going to provide inputs, what kind of inputs, why was it created, what was the thinking behind it, and how is it going to move forward by, how their inputs would be put together and implemented in the policy. So if you could talk briefly about this task force or such initiatives which tend to get inputs from citizens and citizen organizations in the actions that you take.
You see, this has got two aspects, this constitution of the task force. I have mentioned earlier that our whole thrust towards zero emission vehicles has been because residents did not breathe well. This was articulated. And from that came a slew of efforts which is bearing fruits now and then. So it is very necessary now, after the pandemic, to consult the people once again. The pandemic has changed a lot of things. People now are buying cars rather than getting into Ola Uber, because a shared app cab is perceived to be, I'm not saying that they are carriers of coronavirus, but they are perceived to be dirty in the virus sense of the term. So people are getting even second-hand cars and personalized mode of transport. The faith on public transportation system seems to have withered. Over years, over decades, the transportation specialists and strategists across the world have been emphasizing that don't go by the individual car, it's a waste of energy, it's a waste of fossil fuel, it's a burden on the climate change gases. So please, share, pool a car, get into a bus, get into a metro. That has been the overarching thought in the policymakers' mind everywhere in the world. And that is what the World Bank has been pushing. That is what everybody else have been pushing for. But this pandemic has changed it. People don't like to get into buses if they can avoid it. If you have the least amount of money, you will get into something else. So we therefore brought in the cycles at that point of time. And as I said, this public cycle sharing scheme and cycle network has been a huge success. People are learning cycle to use it, so to say. But this is not enough. We must understand what the people are trying to say about public transportation. Is it only the fear of COVID, which if it's there, it's there, we can't say anything. We ourselves have been emphasizing on social distancing. So it's like that. So what I'm saying is that it is very necessary to consult the people at both the middle class and office going public and also the working class as to what is their perception of public transportation right now. How would they like their buses to be? If there is partition, glass partition, would it help in reverting there? If there is more frequent and therefore less number of people standing and not all those crowded buses, would it help? Would it help if there are now a less number of stops in between the origin and destination, like there's express buses? Or would they like to go step by step, slowly, gently? So it's very necessary to gauge the mood of the people post-pandemic for the public transportation. The whole thought process has been disrupted. The whole policy gamut has been disrupted. So now where do we go? So this is one reason why we are at this point of time, we are taking e-polls on set questionnaire. We are sending out forms. We are trying to gauge people's reaction on a large number of issues relating to public transport. So if it's only not only public transportation, but in other areas as well, for example, the traffic police, the other stakeholders, the NGOs, the auto union, and the others, they are also being consulted about their perception. Would it help, for example, and we tried it very much at one point of time, for the auto wallahs and the toto wallahs and even the bus, which did not happen too much, is can we insist on digital money so that there's less exchange of the virus, a possibility of exchange of the virus? And how about bringing everybody to an apps kind of a thing, though they may be individually owned? So these are some of the issues that are being looked at. There are problems because many of them don't have smartphones. So how would they get into an aggregation mode on an e-platform is a problem. But so therefore we are trying to find out the jugaad kind of way. I have been thinking that if there is a central call center and I want to go from my home to a certain place and I want to call a three-wheeler, an auto, then he rings up, which is very good communication. He rings up that auto wala nearest and is given to my, is brought into my home for going to the destination without very sophisticated Ola, Uber types of apps, which need very long time to develop, very costly to operate, very difficult to maintain. So in Indian system, manpower is cheap. And so one person, right now, how are these auto stands operated? There is one guard or the starter, as they call it, the starter. The starter maintains the discipline. He has come first, so the next call, he will go. So this kind of an Indian jugaad system for managing the city level transportation fleet, we would also like to see whether that is what is needed. That is where intervention must be done at the city level so that everybody's concerns are addressed and everybody's problems are minimized.
Are there other mechanisms by which, so you talked about the task force, you talked about the e-polls, then you said that you try to link up with these auto unions and other such representative bodies. Are there other ways in which citizens also are connected with you over time? We keep reading about various initiatives. I just read about that volunteers are themselves coming to do kind of a neighborhood watch in your town. And is that kind of a
Yes.
culture? So, for transport and mobility, is there something similar where citizens themselves, not these representative bodies, but a lay citizen is there, and they are able to provide their inputs, some kind of institutional mechanism?
I must say that you are very, very updated, because we had a hugely successful meeting last Sunday only, that is 2 days before, and at 7 o'clock in the morning, and where we brought a large number of volunteers, citizen volunteers, come together, talk to the police, divide themselves, and they would do their morning walk as dictated by the police in their neighborhood, so that we keep an effective watch on any any criminal activity. That has also been extended to evening walks for those who do that. We have always held a close contact with our residents in Newtown, and one reason definitely is that it is not large like Calcutta, Delhi, and all. You just can't meet people. Here, even in the peak of Corona, we have held Zoom meetings, region-wise, RWA-wise, and we have had very detailed conversation. Everybody sitting at their home, telling their problems, sharing their ideas. So number one, we have been holding regular citizen interactions to hear their voices. Number two, we have got a 24/7 helpline. It is run by a professional call center, and this number is always advertised everywhere at the bus stations, on the websites, everywhere it is circulated. So any time of the day or night, 2 p.m. in the 2 a.m. in the night, or whatever, you need to send a message, it is there. I wouldn't say it's like the 100 of police, because nothing happens immediately, but your message, your grievance, your complaint is computerized, a docket number is given, and it is directed towards a concerned officer who will look at it, whether it's a pothole, whether it's a street light not working, whether water not dripping, not coming out, whatever be the nature of the problem. There is a 24/7 computerized citizen response management system in place. This I find, and we monitor it very regularly every day, how many complaints have come, how many have been resolved. So this is something that we have always looked at. Another very recent initiative that we have done, and it has caught the eyeballs of many people, is that, you see, we have to make very often public communication. Public communication means IEC, like right now it's rainy season in Calcutta, and dengue, vector-borne diseases are a threat. And so people have to be told and reminded constantly not to allow stagnant water to be there. People have to be told repeatedly about maintaining social distances, wearing masks. And great social efforts are being now done by the government of West Bengal in the manner of Duare Sarkar, as they call it, government at your doorstep, and the modalities have to be told to them. Now, traditionally, this has been done through social media, through website, through newspaper advertisements, through TV advertisements at the state level. That is okay. But when you really want to drive home a message, what we do is we put a loudspeaker on the back of an auto and let it roam around the city. And when there is something blaring into your ears while you are washing your clothes or something, that tomorrow is the last date of vaccination, you tend to react. So this has been the traditional way of using loudspeakers to announce government programs at the city level, IEC activities. But we found two things. In Newtown, we have very many number of tall towers, people living at the 22nd floor, in the 30th floor, and so on and so forth. So when it is being announced at the ground floor level, at the road level, this sound does not reach them. And second, in the gated communities, in the housing societies, it is bounded by a boundary wall, and the NKDA three-wheeler with a mic fitted on its back, very, very humble appearance, it's not allowed to get inside the gated community. The security would stop it. So the tower on the side of the road, even on the lower floors, would hear what is happening, but on the far side of the gate would not hear it. So we have used a drone, a special drone that can carry a weight, which has got an amplifier and a music player, and we have recorded certain voices, much like what you hear in the railway stations, with a ding dong at a start to catch your attention. And this has been going around the city. And many people have found this a very novel way of reaching out to the citizens, government communication. So through Zoom meetings, through periodic interactions with the residents, and through the call center, and through drone announcements, we are constantly in touch at the individual level with the citizens. And they do give us all kinds of feedback. Some are cranky. Everybody wants a bus stop near his doorstep. That, of course, is not possible. But we try to optimize and where are the main complaints coming from. We have a regular cell for monitoring the social media as well. People are very active in Newtown. They're all educated, all middle class and above, all very, very articulate. And if they see a wrong, they spoil no time in saying that the government is bogus and this needs to be done. So we have a team working on the social media, listening to people's comments, trying to put the contrary view that this is not possible for such and such reasons, or this is being done. So these are all the measures that we do to keep in touch with the media, with the local residents. And we do very often change our strategy to suit them, and sometimes to tell them. For example, I'll stop over here. From the last 2-3 years, we have sat with all the puja organizers. You know, Durga Puja is a very big event in Kolkata. So when the immersion happens, now things are very chaotic in cities like Kolkata. Everybody goes to anywhere, thereby crisscrossing the streets and creating needless traffic jams. So here we sit with the puja organizers, we chart out a beautiful carnival. And when they come to the immersion ghat, we are all there sharing with them a dhaki nach and give prizes too. And we involve them. They are happy to see us. We are happy to see them. And a very beautiful culture of resident governance, all merging together into one, has been happening in Newtown.
Quite a few innovative approaches, and I'm assuming that a lot of them are probably very unique to Newtown, and they are like maybe there are other cities who are using them, but they seem to be originating in Newtown. Zoom, I think, liked the conversation, so it said that that it is gifting us more time. So I don't want to take too much of your time, but
yeah, I've got another meeting lined up. Yes.
Yeah. So just one question that, or I'll pack in two questions in one question. One, basically what I want to ask was, for cities which are similar to Newtown in size, and cities which are embarking on similar visions of greener transport, what are some of the messages that you want to give? Because what I perceive from what you talked about is that it requires a lot of effort. And a lot of times effort also translates into human resources, planning, and a lot of logistics and administration, and which requires financial resources or capacity to do it. So cities which might be constrained, but which have the vision to do it, how can they do it? Like, is it a mix of volunteers? Is it a mix of, like for example, you talk about social media, like how can they also do it? Like, is it something which is just unique to Newtown, or it is possible for other cities to replicate?
I think the whole strategy of public transportation needs to be relooked. People who are still recalling their university textbooks are probably not very correct any longer. Right now, I am sitting in Sector 5, the Navodigonto Industrial Township Authority, of which I happen to be the chairman. And this is an area like, let us say, the Electronic City in Hyderabad or Gurgaon, which is full of techies, the IBMs, the PwCs, the KPMGs, the Cognizants. It is full of that people, very little residential place. What do I find? I find that while the streets were all chock-a-block, traffic chaos raining at around 10:30, 11 in morning peak time, it is now quiet. The work from home phenomenon or remote working or telecommuting, whatever technicality you want to say, work from home sounds the easiest. So this work from home phenomenon has changed the way working people move. Senior citizens don't move in any case. They are pensioners, happy to be healthy and looking at their Netflix. The children are doing online classes from their homes, don't need to go to school. And the working population, the youth, the millennials, they are also very happy working from their homes. The owners, the IBMs of the world are very happy. I know for certain, I will not take names. At least one very major IT company in Kolkata has given off 1,000 seats in the last few months, de-rented, de-licensed, because they don't want to spend money on hiring places and running it. People are happy with working at home. They are happy not spending money on real estate, renting and leasing. And also, they're getting, let us say, 12 hours work instead of 8 hours per shift. Because you are at home, he's happy, he's not wasting time in commuting. What I'm trying to say? I am trying to say that therefore we need to create models, as I will presently say, that will tune to this idea. You don't need to come to your workplace, except like 20% for the engineer, hardware engineer, it is heating up, what to do, that is slightly different. But other than that, a huge amount of work, education is happening from homes. So people are, and also e-commerce, you can get everything from home. You are having big basket and Amazon and Flipkart to get everything at home. Why do you need to travel? In a city context, I'm saying, if you need to travel for vacation, that's different. So in a city context, the travel thing is going to go down. And if it's going to go down, what do you need instead? Now, work from home, in my opinion, Indian homes are not suited for work from homes. The mother is teaching online, the two son and daughter are studying online, the father is having a video conference. And do you really have 4 rooms and 4 sets of all equipment at your home always? Not except the very rich. So what is the need? The need is to have residential level, small working pods. And I'm happy to say that we have very recently opened a very, very fantastically designed working pod at a princely sum of 20 rupees per hour. You pay 20 rupees per hour, you get an air-conditioned space, you get free Wi-Fi, and you can buy coffee also. There's a Xerox machine also, tiny thing, only 20 seats in a locality, not in an office area, not in industrial township authority, but in local mahallas. You just get a few 100 square feet of land and build a working cocoon. So these kinds of thoughts, these kinds of new interventions, where you analyze why people travel in a city in the first place, and is it possible to even lower their demands of traveling? They can work home, take a bag and go to the nearby working pod, spend the day in peace, do your project, come back, and then only pay by the hour. So these kinds of intervention, I think, are very good. And we are also thinking of a macro intervention to avoid moving people. We are saying walk to home and take an elevator to home. We are designing a vertical city. So the residential sector will be on the top 30 floors, the middle section, working section, office section, startup section in the middle 30 floors, and the bottom 30 floors will be commercial spaces, retails, shopper stop, and everything else. So these kind of compact cities in the urban sector, under urban planning sector, we have already increased our FAR or FSI, as some call, in some areas to as high as 6, where 2 or 2.25 is the India norm, because we think that concentrated building in a single place with residential, commercial, and institutional together, not like old planning that Dalhousie Square in Kolkata is only office, Salt Lake is only residence, and therefore when one wakes, the other sleeps. Needless commuting from one place to another, one direction. In the morning, all buses to Dalhousie is packed. In the evening, all buses to Salt Lake are packed. It's a useless and mindless kind of a segregation that has happened because of our legacy of planning, urban planning, and not recognizing the science even now. So I would say, your question was, what do you suggest other cities do? I would suggest that look at the transportation issue at its very basic. That's it. I think basically that's the point I was. Okay. So what is this talk about? I mean, you are going to publish something, or you are going to make a project. That part you can kind of throw some light.
Yes. So this is we as Nagrik, we work on issues of small cities and small towns, and we are currently looking at small city mobility as a key sector in which we are trying to throw more light about initiatives that various cities are doing. And so we work on creating academic knowledge, practitioner knowledge, and common knowledge, which is consumable by citizens. And in this case, what we are trying to do is create a vision for citizen-oriented mobility. That how in smaller cities, a combined vision for mobility by citizens can be created. And we are looking at various approaches that other cities are taking in creating that connect. And so the objective of these conversations, so we are doing parallelly a lot of other things on small city mobility, where we are just starting a survey in various small city capitals across India to understand what kind of inputs would citizens want to give, what are the ways in which they can provide these inputs, and also looking at the character and nature of mobility in smaller towns. So what you talked about earlier, that go to the basics. So try to figure out those basics, and then create many such conversations by people like you who are finding these ways in which they connect with citizens and then flow that learning back into actual actions, because that is a lot of times the biggest challenge in smaller cities, that how do authorities and agencies which are responsible.
So will you publish
Yes.
a report or make something like that?
From this, we will publish the video as well as a summary of the conversation.
Sure.
We'll share
when
that
it comes out, please share a copy.
Yes.
I would like to listen also what others are saying.
Definitely. Thanks so much, Mr. Sen. Have a good day.
Have a good day. Thank you very much.